all through my adult life. I couldn't hold a relationship. I couldn't interact with people. I was afraid of everybody. And I believed I was the problem. So that led me down the road of addiction and self-harm and all those terrible things we do when we're trying to find some solution to the shame and guilt and all the self-loathing and all the kind of stuff that we're bombarded with. And then I got into this idea of it was my job to carry that pain all my life and to try and process it through my adult life. So there was at 20, still trying to process what happened at 12, and at 30, the same thing, and 40. And then a mentor I had through my addiction program, a sponsor I had, he said to me one day, he said, "Isn't it time you let go of the past?"
Richard Tierney, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm very excited to hear your story. You are going to speak to us about some very interesting topics. And again, I don't like to share with people what it's about. They've seen it in the description and in the title of the video. But just give us a little bit of background about what it is that led you to be offering this program that you offer now. Well, what happened in your life?
Well, Natasha, at the age of 12, I suffered a trauma event. And as a child, I believed it must have been my fault. I must have attracted the person to me. I must have given some signal. I was filled with such shame and self-loathing that it happened. But it wasn't that I wanted to die. I didn't want to live. I was a 12-year-old child blaming myself for something that happened as though I was the reason it happened, you know. It led to a terrible childhood of disconnection, disassociation from my family, not wanting to let people get close to me, fear of intimacy, fear of anything at all. So I think that term adult child, I was an adult child from the age of 12 until the age of probably 47. I never continued to grow mentally and emotionally as an adult. From 12 upwards, I stayed in that state of the adult child. I really identify with that term adult child. It really sums up all through my adult life. I couldn't hold a relationship. I couldn't interact with people. I was afraid of everybody. And I believed I was the problem. So that led me down the road of addiction and self-harm and all those terrible things we do when we're trying to find some solution to the shame and guilt and all the self-loathing and all the kind of stuff that we're bombarded with. And then I got into this idea of it was my job to carry that pain all my life and to try and process it through my adult life. So there I was at 20, still trying to process what happened at 12, and at 30, the same thing, and 40. And then a mentor I had through my addiction program, a sponsor I had, he said to me one day, he said, "Isn't it time you let go of the past?" And I was shocked. This was who I am. I'm a victim. You can't say to me, "Let go of the past," like it's nothing. Like this is my identity, who I am, you know. But this man really meant an awful lot to me. He was the first person I probably connected with that I allowed inside my boundaries. And it felt safe. And so I didn't want to lose that connection. So I challenged myself to look at why I was carrying this, and I came to realize that it wasn't the way of healing, was to keep processing, keep reliving this over and over again. And I wanted to find some way of breaking free of the past. And lucky enough, being in AA, they have a 12-step program, which has helped millions of people break free of alcohol, drugs, food, sex, porn, codependency, so many different modalities. And it's worked extremely well. You know, you look at yourself, you look at what you're doing wrong, and you just change your behavior, change your attitude, change your outlook. And it seemed like a great place to start. So I started looking at the whole idea of a 12-step program. And I looked in trauma fields who had embraced the 12-step program. And I found that there's no 12-step program out there for trauma, that no one had found a way to incorporate the 12-step program into dealing with past trauma. That all they do is they take the 12-step program, we remove the word alcohol, and replace it with the word trauma. But that was about learning to live with a trauma, learning to live with alcohol. You always have the addiction. And if you're triggered, you might drink. And then you always have the trauma. If you're triggered, you might react. But I wanted somewhere where we could take the trauma and give it back to our younger self. I really understood that. At the time, I think I was 47 years of age. And I realized I'm a 47-year-old man. I'm not a 12-year-old child. What happened 30 years ago happened to a 12-year-old child. It didn't happen to a 47-year-old man. If what happened to that child happened to me today, I wouldn't let it happen. I'm big enough, strong enough, bold enough to say, get away from me, let go of, or stand up for myself or whatever. So what happened to that child didn't happen to me. And that was a turning point for me. I realized I only exist in these 24 hours right now. So I'm here with you, Natasha. Here in Thailand, it's 4:15. And I've got a sequence of my day today where my day starts at 6 a.m. in the morning and I finish at 10 p.m. at night. And that's my whole life. I can't go back into the past, and there's no guarantee I'll wake up tomorrow morning. So my life is 16 hours today. And so far at 4 o'clock, this means I've only got 6 hours of my life left. I mean, I could do 6 hours. Before I was trying to do, I'm 63 years of age today. I was trying to do 63 years in the past, plus today, plus 20 years in the future. And it was too much for any one person to cope with all that in one space. So now I do a thing where I've let God back into my life. I don't do religion. I don't do denominations. I don't do man-made religions or churches. I'm not a member of any denomination or any church. I'm not trying to promote it. If it works for you, go for it. Fellowship of AA works for me and I love it. I love fellowship of going to meetings and talking about where I am. And I find it wonderful. If churches work for you, keep going. If religion works for you, I wouldn't say no. But for me, it just didn't work for me. I couldn't understand how Christians could have this book called the Bible. It's the story of God. And then create 45,000 different denominations and churches. Like that just blows my mind. How stupid is that? It's either one path, there can't be 45 different. And if you pick the wrong church or the wrong denomination, are you screwed? I chose a Roman Catholic and it should have been a Protestant, or I chose a Protestant, it should have been it just didn't make any sense at all. So I wanted to find some way. So I decided for myself, I'd invest in the Bible and I'd read the Bible, and that would be my spiritual growth. I don't do church, I read the Bible occasionally. And there's one that I really love is there, ask and you should receive, seek and you should find, knock and doors should be opened to you. So for me, asking is right here now, I would say to your audience, close your eyes, breathe into your nose and say, God, I want you to take all my demons from me. And in that moment, you've asked and he's complied. The seek now is find a path that allow you to let go of your past. So in this case, it's the Trauma Recovery Anonymous program that allows you to give your past back to your younger self. And once you've given it back and it's gone, and the knocking the door is knock on the door of the new life, your new life in the future where it's gone, and then live 16 hours a day. That's it. Forget about what's happening in Russia or in America or with your neighbors or with your parents or with your siblings. You've got 16 hours to deal with just today. And my 16 hours is being on my show with you and Natasha now, talking about my program. It's 4 o'clock. I've only 6 hours left of my day. What happened before 4 o'clock? Not my business anymore. It's gone. This is 4 o'clock until 10 o'clock tonight. This is my whole day. I get to spend an hour with you now. Fantastic. And I hope some of your audience can kind of resonate with this and get a feeling for this. And then after this, I'll bring my dogs for a walk. I'll have tea with my wife. I'll do some other work, learn from another podcast next week, please God. But that's all I do. Just prepare for today. And if I wake up tomorrow, then I'll start another 16 hours tomorrow. So that's where I needed to get to. And I realized what I had to do was give the past back to its rightful owner. And the best way for me was I'd like to share with you. I have 3 parables I created to tell people to understand. So the camera's above the PC and you're on the PC. I keep looking at you. I'm looking at the floor. So please forgive me. I'll remember occasionally to look up at the camera so it looks like I'm making eye contact with you. It really confuses me that the camera's up there. I keep forgetting I'm looking in the wrong place. So I look at the camera now. I feel as though I'm not looking at you, but I know I am. So here goes. I have 3 parables I share with my clients that kind of explains what we're talking about. So the first one is an idea that, imagine you and I are best school friends. Okay? And we're both in high school and you're studying together a scholarship, and you've given up all your teenage years to just really study and train and work at your scholarship. And then one day you get a phone call from the college in question saying that they've seen you work so hard, Natasha. They want you to go to their college. They're excited. So you give the phone to your parents, and you phone me. We go off down to the local place for a restaurant for a burger and chips and play some pool and just drink sodas and really we let our hair down and be really happy and joy some freedom. On the way home, we're jumping dollars, we're climbing trees and jumping over walls and all sorts of just letting the energy out, and you fall over and you break your arm. And in that moment, it's like all your dreams have gone. You're devastated. You get your parents, they come and they pick you up and they bring you to the hospital. And they put your arm in a cast and they give you medication for the physical pain, the emotional pain. They take you home, and I'm left there sitting there thinking about how all your life is falling apart. And I was a part of that. So I go to the chemist to get a cast and put it on my arm. I get medication for your physical pain, your emotional pain. And in my home, I put this cast on my arm and I take your medication. And of course, your parents phone the college say, listen, don't worry about it. Kids do this. You'll be fine in a few months' time. We'll get the arm off, the cast off his arm. We'll do a rehab program. We'll be right as rain. But in the meantime, I'm in my house with my cast on my arm, taking your medication for your physical pain, medication for your emotional pain. And this goes on for years. You've got your arm out of the cast, you're in college, everything's working, you have your life ahead of you. But I'm still carrying your pain, suffering your pain because of the simply pains I have for you and the memory of what happened to you. I'm still there with my cast, my arm and my cast. Now, the thing is, did you ask me to do this for you? It's the first question. Second question, is it of any benefit to you for me to suffer for your pain? The third question is, at what point is this no longer about you and this is about me? And that's really the crutch about this. When the pastoral memory is no longer about the person who suffered the event, but we take it as ourselves, at what point is that we have to look at? That's a question we have to ask ourselves seriously, because at some stage, we give up worrying about the past person and we put it upon ourselves. And that's where we're kind of self-sabotaging. The second story I kind of share with people is the fact that we're two neighbors, and we're best friends, best neighbors. And I get an opportunity to work abroad in the other side of the world on an oil rig or down a mine somewhere. I'm going down for 3 years, and I give you the keys to my house to actually take care of my house, and you comply. And maybe 2 weeks into me being gone, you get a call to go for an interview or maybe for a date, and you've got no wheels, no way to get in there. And you remember, I've got a car on my drive, and you go in, and you take the car out, and you drive it, and everything's great. And suddenly you find yourself using the car every day. Now, fair play to you, you change the tires, and you look after the care of the car and the insurance and everything, you look after it perfectly. But 3 years later, you get an email from me saying, I'm on my way home. And you've got that, in Disney, Pluto, and he's got the white angel on one shoulder and the red devil on the other shoulder. The white angel saying, you've got to give that car back. It's not your car. And the red angel saying, no, possession is 9/10 of the law. You hang on to this car. You can go jump. It's your car now. And the angel says, no, give it back. And something overcomes you to give it back. So you put the car back in the garage and you get it all serviced, and you work out how much mileage you put on the car, and on its whole table, you put my keys to my car, and you put a note about how you've used it, and this is the money for the petrol. And you leave it and you walk away from it. And you're tossing eternity every night, thinking about what's going to happen when he gets back. He's going to confront me. And suddenly the doorbell rings, and I'm outside your door, and you open the door, and I give you a hug, and I thank you for looking after my house and my car. And say, here's your money back. You took care of my car. It's all fine. And I walk away with my keys. And the relief you feel from giving it back is just phenomenal. Now you can sleep at night. It's gone. It's out of your drive. It's no longer there. And that's the idea of giving it back. When we give it back to our younger self, we feel the release in our bodies, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, like a great weight lifted off our shoulders. It's gone, and it's gone forever. And the third parable I share, and this is very challenging for all of us to hear, but it's something we need to address. Is imagine yourself in 30 years' time, Natasha. So I put you at maybe about 45. So imagine a 75-year-old version of you in the future. You've sacrificed so much. You're going through so much trouble today, but you're enduring it so they'll be free of it in 30 years' time. And you've sacrificed so much to give them a life beyond your wildest dreams in 30 years' time. But you suddenly see them one day going into the attic of their mind, and from the dark recesses drawing out this chest, opening up the chest and taking out of the chest a cloak with all of your troubles on it for today, and putting that cloak on their body and zipping it up and buttoning it up, and then ignoring their life they have that you've sacrificed so much for in the future. They're walking around telling everybody what happened to you 30 years ago happened to them. And the question is, how would you feel if everything you sacrificed for, everything you worked on, they're rejecting it and they're choosing to be a victim of your trauma? How would that make you feel? And that's probably the most damning question we have to ask ourselves. If we were thinking of someone who betrays all our good work and chooses to be a volunteer for our trauma in the day, how would we feel about them doing that to us? And I realize that's what we're doing to our younger self. When we take a trauma from the past and bring it into our present and suffer it in the present as though it happened to us, we're betraying our younger self. They don't want to be on this plane of existence. They want to leave this plane of existence, but they can't leave without their baggage. Because they've brought the past into the present, they can't leave this plane of existence, and the past is eating away and destroying everything it touches. The Bible says, let the dead bury the dead. We know in human nature it says it's all water under the bridge, it's don't cry for spilled milk, the past is history. It's none of our business. We have to give it back to our younger self. And this trauma recovery program allows you to take this. It's a spiritual experience of actually taking this from your body and giving it to your younger self, and younger self saying to you, Natasha, thank God, I've been trying to get your attention for years. Thank you for giving back my rubbish. Let me take it from you. I'm going to take it with my 1,000 angels, step into the light, and you'll be free. And it's a visualization practice using a lot of holistic practice. I use tapping and Reiki, where you actually give the whole baggage back to them. They take it off you. They step into the light, and when they step into the light, you feel this release from your body, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. It's very hard to put into words what happens, but when you do this practice, it takes about 2 hours. But in that moment, when you give it back to your younger self, and you see them taking it off you, it's like your eyes are closed, and you can see in this cloud line, you can see this younger version of you at the age of 12 for me, at the age of 18 for you, screaming, going, Natasha, I'm over here, giving myself, and you give it to them, and they take it from you. The release is mind-blowingly beautiful. It's like you letting go of the past completely. And that not only do they take their stuff, they take everything up until 4 o'clock today of mine. Everything I have up until today, they're taking all of it. They're saying, you carried my stuff for 35 years. I'm carrying yours for the next 35 years. I want you to focus on your 16 hours. And we feel this release. I've worked with 105 clients. And the experience of seeing these people giving it away was so beautiful. And it's just such a simple, it seems crazy it could be this simple. But we're not. It's like you borrow a toy off your friend and they want the toy back and you give it back to them. The relief you get giving back, knowing there's no longer responsibility, they're not going to break it or something or whatever, and they want it, they have it. You keep maintaining that friendship. It's the same idea. We just simply say, okay, this isn't mine. This is yours. I give it back to you, young Richard, young 12-year-old Richard. There you are. He says, thank you very much. He steps through the light. He's gone from this plane of existence. Now, I still have the memory of what happened to him, but all the details, I don't have the details anymore. So the best way I can describe that is, I remember as a child in Ireland, growing up, they had a sports day for the children. There was the egg and spoon race, there was a three-legged race, and I thought these were Olympic events. I remember myself and my friends, we'd practice in the back garden, tire our middle day together, running up the garden, egg and spoon race. We really believed it's like it was we were training for the Olympics to do this. We compete in this. And I remember those events, but I don't remember the details. I don't remember if it was sunny or if it was windy or it was raining or if it was sweat on my brow or what clothes I wore, if my knees got dirty with clay or if it's dirty ground or hard ground. The details I don't remember, but I remember there was an event when I was 6 years of age when I ran in a three-legged race. I laughed my head off. Like we fell about 100 times. So the memories I always have, and all our memories we're meant to have. We have a memory bank in our head. We're meant to have the memories, but not the details. We have to give the details back. And it's such a simple solution for complicated people. We just give the details back to your younger self. They take it into the light, and then we're free to move on.
It's a lot to unpack.
It is. I know it is. Yeah.
I have a few thoughts along the way, but what's interesting is I do a lot of ancestral trauma healing with family constellations. And it's the same thing. I've never actually thought to apply it to your younger self as well, because it's exactly that. So many children take on the forefathers' pains, their traumas, not even knowing them. That they might have passed on, might be something in the family that happened even up to 7 generations ago. And you carry it out of love because you think they're not strong enough to handle it. But actually, it's a form of arrogance because it's saying they're too weak to know how to do it. They don't know how to do it. So, yeah. I'm actually, that's amazing. So how do you access the details? How do you, let's say your younger self has trauma at 3 years old or something. I mean, our memories are so limited.
Well, the way I do it is the healing event has basically 4 parts. The first part is a set of 7, what I call spiritual foundation stones. And each of these are a form of a miracle. I like to call them a miracle, but the Bible says that Jesus didn't give miracles to people in churches or, the Pharisees, the well-educated Christians or Jewish scribes. He gave it to the disenfranchised, the disheartened, the lost, the hopeless. He gave miracles to. And when he died, he said, I leave you with the power to perform miracles yourself. And then he left this plane of existence. He left with the Holy Spirit. And we claim the Holy Spirit. And in that moment, we can perform miracles. So the miracles we claim for ourselves. I used to think if someone could give me beautiful women and a fast car and a big house, I'd be happy. I realized all I wanted was peace of mind. All I want is peace of mind. That's the miracle I want. To be able to be at peace in my mind in any situation, in bed, sleeping, whatever it was. And that's the miracle we claim. So the 7 foundations, spiritual foundations cornerstones are a series of mini miracles we perform on ourselves to change our attitude, our outlook, and our perspective. One is that I do a trauma chart. So I get a trauma chart and I get people to draw on the trauma chart a line, a timeline from minus 100 to plus 100. Okay. And the middle point is 0. And then from that, draw a line up. And the left side is the past and the right side is the present. Okay. So 0, you have halfway is minus 50. Halfway between 0 and minus 50 is minus 25. And then you turn minus 50 minus 25 is minus 100 is minus 75. And then on the other side is the plus. Okay. And then on the left side, you put the name. So if it's a 3-year-old child, you put down young 3-year-old Natasha. On the other side, you put down 35-year-old Natasha. So 35-year-old Natasha is in the present today. And you try and change Natasha to maybe a pet name. So for me, it was Richard and Richie. Today, I'm 63-year-old Richard. And the yesterday of me was young 12-year-old Richie. So I could clearly see these are 2 different people. And if I took a photograph of me today and put it alongside a photograph of that 12-year-old child, I could see one's an old grey-haired man, he's had a heart attack, he's old, he's getting older. And the 12-year-old child is full of joy spring before the trauma event happened. So like it could be a week or a day, but he's full of life and innocence and whatever. And then for the title of the graph, we use loss of innocence. Because something in our past causes us to lose a loss of innocence. Whether you're a veteran and you remember going off to war and suffering the horrors of war, or you're married for love and you didn't know you married into a narcissistic family, or you were dysfunctional parents, or it's a loss of innocence we experience. So we use one label for everybody. Now, I would treat 100 people at one time, because I don't need to know your story, and I don't want to know your story, and you don't want me to know my story. You've had enough of telling people your story and hoping that they can help you, and then they can't help you. You can tell another person. What happens is you end up embellishing your story. You end up adding to your story that the next therapist might get it. But you end up adding to your story, and it grows and grows, which is insane. So I'm going to teach you to treat you. So you in turn will do what I tell you to do. You allow my words to sink into your psyche, so I'm speaking on your behalf. You'll do all the tapping I do and all the pressure points in my body. And through this event, you will complete this series that you'll feel the energy changing. You'll just feel this weight off your shoulders, the weight off your chest. You'll feel your face relaxing. The masks will just slip from your face that need to always smile and be happy when really you're very tired. You want to just leave the room. That'll leave you. Tears will come to your eyes. They won't be tears of sadness. They'll be tears of joy that you've been suppressing yourself for all these years, and suddenly you can just let it all go. So clients will tend to experience all these expressions of emotions and joy and whatever all at one time. And they'll do it over the series of these 7. When they've done that, it's almost like the healing event has happened without the healing event happening. They've changed so much of their beliefs and their attitudes that when we get to the healing event, it's almost like they're kind of going, I don't need any more. I'm fine as I am. The change, they go back to their chart and they look at the chart and say, well, when I came in, I put down that the memory of what happened to that 3-year-old child was like minus 70. Now, they don't tell me the score. That's your own score you put down, minus 70, minus 60. When you're triggered, you have nightmares or flashbacks. What kind of score would be on that chart for you? They're not comparing anybody else. If there's 100 people in the room, they all write their own score on the chart and they close the chart and keep it to themselves. And the idea is at the end of the event, they look back and see if the score has shifted. And that tells them if there's been a healing. Not about me saying, yeah, you're healed, Natasha, you can go away now. You need to see it in the flesh that's happened. And if you go, well, I was coming in at minus 60 and now I'm like plus 20. That's an 80% swing. I'm on the plus side. I'm in the present. I've shifted. Or maybe it's gone from 60 to plus 60 or plus 80 or maybe it's gone from minus 60 to minus 59. I mean, it seems like a small amount. But for that person, a shift of 1% can be like 100% for somebody else. So it's just seeing that you're creating the shifting. Maybe you have to do it a second time or a third time. But the shift happens in your energy. It can't but happen. If you give this back to that 3-year-old child, and that 3-year-old child leaves this plane of existence, there has to be a shift because you've changed. You're no longer carrying a 3-year-old child in your arms. They've left your body with all their baggage. So there will be a shift. That's the wonderful thing about this. You don't have to hear it from me. You'll experience the shift yourself. And I go through the 7 things I do to help people experience a shift in 7 different ways. And that's the first part of the healing event. And it's almost like a whole healing event, but because you've changed your attitude, your outlook, and your perspective.
I really like that because from the spiritual healing point of view, we are perfect beings. If you've had a trauma, it's kind of overlays you. So by stripping away that trauma, it brings your energy up, because it's not that it adds energy. It actually just reveals the energy you already had underneath it all. It's like revealing that. So how long does a process like that take?
First of all, I'd like to talk about that energy is like a hole in the soul. When we bring the past into our present, it shouldn't be in the present. So it just destroys everything it touches, relationships, opportunities, and it's inside of us. People can't see the hole in their soul. It's eating away at us, causing cancers and ulcers and all sorts of illnesses. But to look at us, you think we're perfectly fine. No one can see that it's eating. They can see the manifestations in our behaviors, in our thoughts, and our feelings, in our actions, but they can't see the deep down. So the healing event takes 2 hours. It's 2 hours, at the most, about 2 hours, 10 minutes to do the healing event. I then use the other hour to take people through the 12-step program. Now, if it's a case, Natasha, that someone has this past trauma memory that's caused them depression or PTSD, and they only had it for a short while, the healing event on its own can be enough. But if you're someone like, I worked with a gentleman, he was 70 years of age, ex-Vietnam vet, and he had it for 50 years. So he needs to not only do the healing event, but then to undo the learned behavior of PTSD and depression. And it's the learned behaviors. I like to think that there's 2 forms of mental illness. There's mental illnesses that mental health professions are trained and qualified to deal with. Mental illness completely. I'm not capable of treating mental illness in any way, shape, or form. It's a mental illness. You must go to a psychiatrist, psychologist, cognitive therapist, somebody who knows that field, who can work in that field. But then there's mental disorders. And I believe the mental disorders are born out of the past. Something happened in our past to cause a mental disorder. It's knocked our normal thinking and our feeling, and it's made our thinking and feeling askew. And that's a mental disorder, not a mental illness. And a mental disorder is to do with the soul, the hole in our soul. And if we can heal the hole in our soul and give it back to our younger self, then we can move forward. But if you've been if you've been living in a mental disorder and you've embraced that state of PTSD or depression or some other disorder for 10, 20, 30 years, all those behaviors you have to unlearn. Because we've learned in those behaviors not to trust anybody, not to let anyone get close, to push people away. Even not even the bad people, but even healthy people we push away, our loved ones, our family trying to help us, and we think they're invading our space and we push them away. We have to fix that and make amends and restitution. So for people who have lived with depression, PTSD, that kind of condition, I suggest you must do the 12 steps after that to undo all that learned behavior, make amends and restitution, right the ship, right your side of the street, and that's why you do the 12 steps. So the 3 hours is 2 hours of the healing event and 1 hour of introducing the clients to the 12-step program, doing a synopsis of each step. And some people can do the 12 steps in that 45 minutes. They just, as I go along through the synopsis, they kind of go, yes, 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 and they're done. And others then would meet in groups and do the 12 steps as a group. But and then any questions they have, I'll try and answer those questions at that time.
So that's amazing. I did I've done quite a few, obviously healing retreats and stuff like that. And I've done some really powerful stuff, but it took longer than 3 hours. Like now I know, I've got tools, but I love your methodology, because I think the reason that people have got trauma is they don't actually process it. So by sitting down with it and having a framework in which to process the trauma and actually sit with it and instead of trying to numb it or, be overworking or going with some addiction, maybe, eating or whatever, just to numb the pain.
Is not to suppress it, but not to process it either. It's not ours to process. It's just to find a way to give it back. Just the process is almost like we take it on ourselves to try and fix it for our younger self. So,
no, wouldn't the tapping be the way of your body processing it? It's not a mental process. It's
the idea is, so when I go through the tapping, I better explain this to you. So the healing event is a case of, in the Bible, it says when Jesus performed miracles, he used his hands. Okay? There's so much energy in our hands. You know the thing about the middle finger holds all our anger. Our thumb is anxiety. Our forefinger is fear. Our ring finger is sadness and grief. Our other finger is trust and boundaries. The center of the hand is for panic. The side of our hand is for stress. So we have to release all the energies in our hands so we can heal ourselves. Because if we try and heal ourselves straight away with all this negative energy in our hands, we won't be laying healing hands on ourselves. We'd be laying hurtful hands on ourselves. So we want to release all the anxiety, all the fear, all the anger, and so on. When we release that from our bodies, from our hands, we really feel this, and so we've opened our channels to allow ourselves to now place healing hands on our body. And then we do the same thing with our head. All that's thinking, and faulty feeling, we have to tap on those points in our head to release all the wearing the masks and the negative thinking and the negative feelings and the anxiety and the panic from our face. And then we're kind of open-eyed to healing ourselves. And then on the body, this is where we give the gift, the past, back to our younger self. It's like we're carrying a big weight on our shoulders. And we're going to take this bag off our shoulders, let it go, and then that bag falls. The angels come down from our younger self, take the bag off, it's carried into the clouds, and we feel this release from our body, and that's where we do the healing. So we have to, the tapping and the Reiki and the acupressure is a case of activating the energy points. So we're not actually processing it, we're just letting go of all the negative energy that we have around it without processing it. We're going to leave our younger self process it. He processes it. Like my 12-year-old inner self suffered, endured, and survived it like 50 years ago. I couldn't survive it today, and he survived it 50 years ago, and he sacrificed all of what he suffered so I'd be free today. So he's the one who can process it. I don't know how to process his pain. I tried for years trying to process his pain. I couldn't do it. So I don't want to process it. I want to just give it to him. So I have to undo all the energy points in my hands and in my body, and then I can just give it to him, and he takes it from me, and it goes again. Yeah, and it's
amazing.
Like it's just like a release, and it's gone. So we're not processing it. We're not suppressing it due to medication.
That's amazing. That makes sense. Again, I'm just tying it up back to ancestral trauma. We don't have to do the processing. It doesn't belong to us.
And that's it. That's it. Yeah, I don't want to contradict you or imply any.
No, you're right. I get it.
I love that fact that you and I are working on letting go of the past. Whatever way we do it, that's the way forward. Medicating it, treating the it's like that thing about cause and effect. Scientists tell us if we treat the effect, there can be no healing, and the effect is PTSD, depression, anger, rage, all the feelings we have about it. And the process, that's all part of the effect. The cause is the past trauma, the ancestral memory. Get rid of it. Get rid of the ancestral memory. Give it back to your younger self 7 generations ago or 20 years ago or 30 years ago. Just give it to them. And if the cause is gone, then there's no rhyme or reason to have these effects, whatever they are for you. Eating, sugar, food, PTSD. There's no reason to have them in your life anymore because you got rid of the cause. That's it.
So what about somebody, for example, who says, I don't know why I'm feeling this way? And they hooked on the thought of why. How would they trace that back and give it to wherever?
We basically all know that we're feeling the way we're feeling because of something in our past. Now, even if you don't know what that thing is or where it came from, we know it came from our past because we woke up with it this morning.
Yes.
So forgetting who was responsible or what happened, we know that this morning I woke up and I was carrying something over from last night or last year or 20 years ago. So again, we don't need to identify who the culprit was or who the victim was. You just know that it's not part of my life today. I woke up with this, it came from the past. And whatever it is, I'm giving it back to my yesterday. And then you see yourself yesterday. So today you're wearing this lovely woolen kind of cardigan. See yourself yesterday wearing a denim jacket and kind of go, okay, Natasha or Natty with the denim jacket yesterday, you had this stuff yesterday, I'm giving it back to you because I don't want it in my life today. And it can be as simple as a one-day affair. You decide whatever you wore. So always try and wear a different costume every day so that you can look back at Natasha who had her hair tied up yesterday or who's wearing lipstick yesterday or was wearing a blue top yesterday, and you give it to that Natasha with the blue top or with the lipstick or whatever it was. You give it to that Natasha. And it can be that simple, just to give it back to whoever was present yesterday.
Oh, I love that. And I think that's the point. Like, I love your philosophy is that you're just living in the present. Today I'm alive. I may wake up tomorrow. I may not wake up tomorrow. But why carry all that stuff? Because it just weighs you down. And the more you accumulate, the heavier it's going to get. And then you're recreating that past. I
think we spoke before about the spirituality of it all. I knew I needed to find some spiritual solution that would allow me to claim a miracle. Because I tried I tried medication. I had two most wonderful psychologists when I was younger. They were the most beautiful people, an elderly woman and then a man who was my age. And they were the most empathetic, kind, loving people. I just knew at that time that they couldn't help me. They were out of their depth. They couldn't help me deal with the pain of somebody else. It just wasn't working. I'd been in therapy for probably 3 years at this stage, 3 years with the first person, 2 years with the second person, and it just wasn't working. One was a man, one was a woman, and it didn't help even having a man or a woman to deal with the situation. It just wasn't working, and I realized I needed to find some solution that would offer me a miracle. So I felt the only thing that was going to work for me was a miracle. If I could say, okay, take this from me and it's gone, like that would be a miracle. If someone give me 5 minutes of peace of mind from the voices in my head. You know the voices in your head? Do you ever hear that phrase? We all have them. We think that they're our best friend. And people with trauma, we think the voice in our head are our best friend and we trust it completely. But there's times in our life when we say or do something completely inappropriate and we find ourselves saying, I don't know what came over me. I wasn't in my right mind. I must have been in two minds. I must have been possessed. And that's a subconscious mind trying to tell us, don't listen to the voices in your head. They're your ego. They're your conscious mind. They're not your friend. They're out to keep you broken, to keep you connected to this fallen world. Stop listening to the voice in your head. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be wonderful if I could get even 5 minutes of peace of mind? And I learned this prayer. I'm going to share it with you and your audience. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes for a moment, sit back and just breathe into your nose only. Only breathe into your nose. When we breathe into our mouths, we aggravate anxiety and panic in our chest. It's like we can't breathe and we're gasping for air. When we breathe into our mouths, it's like we're triggering the stress in our shoulders, like we carry the weight of the world upon our shoulders. So just breathe in gently into your nose, hold that for a moment, and then just let your breath out. And that's your breath from now until the day you die. You're going to breathe into your nose, hold the breath for a moment, and then release it. When you breathe into your nose, you're breathing in the Holy Spirit, the power of God, into your body. You're holding it for a moment, you're allowing that power to feed your soul. And then when you release your breath, you're letting go of any anxiety or stress in your body. You can cough it out, you can yawn it out, you can take a big sigh, or just let it fall from your lips gently. But now know that that's what you're going to be doing from this day forward. And this is the prayer. Please allow my words to be your words. Voices in my head. Thank you for all your efforts on my part in the past. Thank you for always trying to keep me safe. I realize now that you're no longer part of the solution. You're actually part of the problem. You caused terrible trouble in my life, and I want to cast you from my mind. I'm listening to Richard's words. I agree with him completely. I ask in this moment to cast you from my mind for the next 35 minutes. For the rest of Natasha's podcast, I'm casting you from my mind. You're no longer welcome here. Be gone. And then after your next breath, just look around your mind and your brain and see that these voices have left you. They've left you for 35 minutes. We can have freedom for up to 24 hours at a time. If we tried for anything longer than that, I think we'd fall short, because these were our best friend, even though they were our mortal enemy. We thought they were our best friends. So we were asked for more than, like at night time, I'd ask God to take them off me for 8 hours so we get 8 hours of sleep. And then during the day, I'd ask for maybe 3 hours from 6 a.m. until 9 a.m. And then 2 hours from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. my morning breakfast. And my morning break, I'd ask for 2 hours from 11 a.m. till lunchtime. And then my lunch break, I'd ask for 3 hours to get through my afternoon, and then 2 hours for my commute home, and so on, and just break into small pieces. But you'll find now, if you've let my words sink into your psyche, the voices will be quiet for 35 minutes. And 35 minutes, you're going to say, okay, what Richie said earlier on, I want this voice gone for another 35 minutes. And just take a piecemeal, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, just cast them out. You're not welcome for 5 minutes. God, take these voices from me for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, for 15 minutes. Send a host of angels down. It's like, yourself, it's an inside job. You have to just say, voices, leave the building. And then you find the voices are gone. You kind of go, this is easy. I've got peace of mind. This is a miracle. For me, it was my biggest miracle was getting peace of mind from the voice in my head. So that's the first step of the trauma program. And then we do the chart, and then we do some others. But quite the voices for the 2 hours of the healing event. That's the first week. We don't want the voices saying, this is crazy, don't listen to Richie, he's talking rubbish, leave the room, turn off the PC. You want to kind of get the voices out of the way so you can actually stay and be present.
Yeah, I think, and then people just get braver and go, okay, let me try it for a day.
Brilliant. If you do a day, fantastic. I just keep it to like 3 8-hour segments, 8 hours of sleep, then 8 hours of work and 8 hours of play. And the 8 hours of work and play kind of intermingle because you've got free time before you go to work. You got your free time periods during your work, so it's like 16 hours. So I just take an hour at a time of work and free time. Just, you're not welcome, get out of the building. And once you make that claim, they'll leave the building. They will leave the building. Just say, voices, get out of my brain. You're bound for the next hour. And you'll find you get peace of mind for an hour. It's a wonderful feeling. I love doing this every time. And once you do it, you'll just go, no one told me this. Like no one told me this. It's so easy. Like, it's like.
No, it is. You know what I've been doing as well, like lately, and that's with my physical body. Like sometimes I'd get a twitch or a pain, and then I would just tell my body, turn it off. And it just stops. And I didn't think to apply that to my thoughts either, because I don't have a lot of thoughts because I've done so much healing work. But sometimes I can find myself in a negative spiral because I woke up that way and I think, no, why am I in this mood? And then I buy into the emotion, but it's actually not the emotion, it's the thoughts that go with it.
Oh, brilliant. Abraham Lincoln said, we can choose to be happy or sad. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. This guy back in the 30s, the president of America, you can choose to be happy or sad, an old teacher, and he had problems with dyslexia. And he comes up with this phenomenal saying that just blows your mind. I can choose to be happy or sad right now. I can choose to be depressed or angry or joyful and whatever and blessed just by choosing it. Here's one for you. Try smiling. Now, you've been smiling all day. I love watching your smile. When we smile, depression, everything leaves us. It's the most powerful tool we have, simply to smile in any moment. Whatever you're feeling really bad, smile, you find everything changes. Smile like a bloody idiot. And things will change. It's just your whole persona will change simply by a smile. Then you turn that smile into a laugh or a giggle, and everything changes. Suddenly you're thinking, I was depressed 5 minutes ago. Richie got me to smile. Now I can't stop laughing my head off. And where's the depression gone? Where's the despair gone? We have these tools, like you said, when you've got a pain in your body, God heal that pain, or energy heal that pain, or body heal that pain. Suddenly it's like it's gone. I do that all the time. I love that. I just tell my body to heal my pain or get rid of the voices, or I smile. I've got a terrible smile. I think I'm looking at you again and not at the camera. I think I've got this crazy smile, but I don't care. I'm in my own home. I'm smiling, and it fills me with joy, and it works,
Well, Richard, I think your program is fascinating, and I think it'll benefit a lot of people. So where can people get hold of you?
It's on Amazon. It's on some other book programs as well, but my goal was to get it on Amazon. It's on Amazon. There's two parts. The one is the Trauma Recovery Anonymous, the healing event, and that's what we're talking about today. And then the second part is the 12-step program, Trauma Recovery Anonymous, the second edition, and that's the 12-step program if you have baggage to unlearn or unprocess. And if you'd like to have a session, I'm Richard at traumarecoveryanonymous.com. I can take one.
I'll post all those links.
100 people, whatever. So that's me. Thank you very much. I really love being on your show, Natasha. Thank you for your smile. Thank you for everything. It's been glorious.
No, you're welcome. Before we go, do you have a message for our viewers? Something they can just think about today?
One thing I've got to say to you, and give God a second chance. We all deserve a second chance, And like Natasha said, you got a pain in your arm. You say, God, I'll take this pain away. You got a voice in your head, say, God, get the voice out of my head. You don't have to join a religion, a church, or denomination. Just simply say, God, give me peace for the next 5 minutes. God, give me a good night's sleep tonight. Just try it. Give him a second chance. He won't disappoint you. There's a bit, I think John Travolta or one of these says, no, he won't disappoint you. He won't let you down. Just give him a try, and he'll look after you. He's just waiting for you to give him an opening into your life. Just say to him, God, give me peace of mind for the next 15 minutes and see what happens. It'll blow you away. Thank you, Natasha.
Thank you.